There's a small abandoned village on the Dorset coast, with a sad story of broken promises. A village frozen in time during World War II. In this episode we fly over the lost village of Tyneham and tell its story. We also marvel at a landscape virtually untouched for over 70 years. If you would like to experience this flight in virtual reality, then there'll be a link at the end of this video. It was pretty epic, so you should give it a try.
So this whole coastline along here is where I learned to fish. They have a big firing range here, part of Lulworth Cove, and this area is only open between 5 and 8 p.m. tonight, and then it closes and they continue firing practice. And my dad told me this story of one time he came fishing when he was a young man. He was walking along one of these cliff passes, probably the one I'm flying over right now, and he heard these things like flying overhead. And he had no idea what they were. And he basically got the time wrong. He didn't read the charts properly, or there was some kind of a change in the timetable. And as a result, he was on the firing range as they were doing target practice. I'm sure he's not the only fisherman to have ever made that mistake. But I certainly don't want to make that mistake as a paramotorist. So I'm a Weymouth boy, and Weymouth is just up ahead. You've got Portland directly in front of us, just below where Cynthia is right now. And Portland is actually where I discovered that I wanted to get into paramotoring. I saw some guys flying off of the cliff face on Portland. I was having lunch with my folks and Cynthia, and it just triggered something inside me, and I became obsessed. And now here we are, just over 2 years later. Over to my right here is the little village of Tyneham. There's an amazing story about Tyneham. Tyneham was a fully functioning village, and in World War II the inhabitants were moved out because they wanted to use it as a training centre for the army, for the war effort. So the Ministry of Defence bought up all of the buildings, moved everybody out, and now there's just the remains of a town. You can see right there. They used to practice warfare in here and stuff like that. But I think it's kind of a sad story that they just literally hoiked everybody out and used their village to practice fighting. I mean, the war was on, so we all had to do our bit. But it's quite sad. Beautiful, beautiful little village. There it is. This is the house that is most destroyed. You can see right below if you look down right now, with trees going inside the house. It's quite something. And there's more houses just over here. And this area is actually closed right now because the Ministry of Defence actually still use it. They still own it to this day.
So imagine this, it's 1943 and World War II's been going on for almost 4 years, and you get a letter from the government about a week before Christmas telling you that they would kindly like to have your village until the war's over so that they can train their troops for the D-Day landings. But don't worry, once the war is over, you'll be able to return to your village. Well, that didn't happen because in 1947 the government wrote a second letter saying that they were keeping the village and that they would no longer be able to return to their homes, ever. And I have really mixed feelings about that because on the one hand, you have this disgraceful act by the government, basically stealing a village from its people who had been there for generations and generations. And it's just absolutely despicable the way that they were treated. And then when you fly over this place, you see just how unspoiled the landscape is. You know, there's none of these huge, ugly mansions overlooking the sea, and there's no tower blocks, there's no candy floss salesman or anything like that on the beach. It's absolutely pristine, it's untouched, except for a few rusty old tanks around and some targets painted on the side of the hillside. It's an incredibly unfair story for the people of that village, and my heart goes out to them.
So that's where they want us to land. I'm not sure about that. So Cynthia and I had a chat about this, and if she wants to land on the beach, she can. And if she doesn't want to land on the beach, she doesn't have to. If she lands on the beach, then I will join her. Or at least I will try to join her. But that's her call. If she decides that she doesn't want to land on the beach, which is perfectly understandable because it is tight, then we'll simply head back to where we were before. Wowee though. Look at this. See, this is an old farmhouse. Look at this, just the remains of an old farmhouse. What a shame. What a terrible shame. I mean, it would be such a beautiful place to live. Look at this little cottage here with the trees going inside. Look at that. Oh, it makes me sad.
If you'd like to experience this flight in virtual reality, then you can follow the link on the right. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.